Hi, my name's David Berger and welcome to Floristry TAFE. Today we're going to do a vertical parallel arrangement. I have a ceramic trough where I've placed the floral foam slightly lower than the edge of the container, and we're going to use a variety of different types of flowers, some anthurium, Vanda orchids, leucadendron, Gymea leaf, lilies, some tropical foliages, and some Banksia and black salix. So I'm going to start with my vertical parallel by placing some of the offcuts of the Gymea leaf that I've spliced the side part of the leaf away and have left the hard midrib exposed, and this is because the leaf draws most of its water up through this mid part of the leaf structure. So what I'm forming with these offcuts of the leaf is a little cityscape. So when we're thinking of parallel design, the lines never meet. So unlike our radial, where we imagine an imaginary point where all the lines are drawn to, in parallel work, all the lines, if they were to continue down beyond the container, would never meet up. So it's a little bit like thinking of a city skyscrape and the different heights of the buildings within that landscape. And that's what I'm creating with the offcuts of the Gymea leaf. Then I'm going to place some of the top part of the Gymeas into a grouping on the outside edges of the design. With parallel work, and especially in a rectangular trough such as this ceramic one, we want to accentuate the edges of the arrangement and make sure that we bring the lines of the material right to the very edges, so we create this rectangular repetition of the form of the container. What I'm also doing is turning the arrangement from time to time to make sure that I get a vertical profile on the side of the arrangement, not only the front of it. This arrangement will have a main face, but it will also have a transparency that will allow me to see the flowers through both sides of the arrangement. I have the Coccinia Banksia that I'm placing into the arrangement now, and the most important thing with this is what I'm doing is looking at the direction of the head of the flower and making sure that that runs parallel with the container and parallel with the other material. If the stem of the flower is slightly curved, then just allow for a straight placement of the head of the flower to give that very strong vertical feeling to the arrangement. Most flowers do have curves and tilts in their stem, and you just need to concentrate on the actual head of the flower to make sure that that is in the vertical position. I'm also grouping the flowers each side and leaving a little bit of a void in the center at this point in the arrangement. I'm going to fill that with other materials a little bit later on, but I want to group and grade the Coccineas, also cutting some a little bit shorter to stagger their heights, to draw the eye down towards the base of the arrangement, which again will give more of a vertical feel to the piece that I'm doing. I'm going to add some of the leucadendrons, they're a secondary flower in this arrangement, and strengthen some of the lines of the Coccinea with these. Again, you can see that this has quite a curved stem on the actual flower, so I'm going to aim it into the oasis to make sure that the top of the flower is upright and straight, and even if the curve in the stem is slightly evident, that the actual placement of the flower is parallel. So I'm going to mirror what I've done on one side of the arrangement, but I'm going to bring these leucadendrons down slightly lower. So I'm creating lots of different levels within this design to allow the eye to move and stop on the different levels within the arrangement. So I'm placing some of the materials also in groups of 2, which is a statement. So when we place flowers in a group, we need 3 or more flowers. When we place a statement of flowers, we just need 2 stems. And generally when we place a statement, the flower heads are quite close together, not exactly on the same height or the same line, but fairly close together, so it adds a different rhythm to the arrangement and allows the eye to stop on the different notes, very much like it stops on a musical chart. I'm going to place my liliums into the design using the Gaimea leaves as a little bit of a background to the placement of the lilies. I've taken quite a few of the leaves off the liliums, and that's going to ensure that the flowers open nice and full, so there's less water that needs to go up throughout the leaf and then up to the flower. The water will travel quite quickly up to the bloom and make sure it opens. When I'm placing my lilium, I'm looking to make sure that I place the primary flower, or the flower that's coloured the most, out towards the front or the face of the arrangement. All this means is that that beautiful first bloom is going to open up where the client or customer can see the flower, and it won't open into the arrangement where it won't be seen, or there won't be room for the flower to develop and bloom completely. So just with lilies, you'll always find that there's this primary flower bud that has a little bit more colour, and that definitely needs to be placed on the outside to allow it to open nicely. You can see now I've got some groups of the liliums in the arrangement as well. I'm going to place some of the monstera leaves in the arrangement, but what I want to do, I don't want to put them out to the side. I want to use that nice mid-rib in the leaf as, again, a vertical placement which will carry the eye up to the material higher in the arrangement. So I'm going to place the monstera leaf with their mid-rib mimicking the placement of the coccinea and the leucadendron. So they're going to face up, and you'll see that this creates a strong line for the eye to follow up into the arrangement and gives that vertical appearance again. So placement of material in these vertical designs is very important, to look at the material and to have it placed so that it's helping the eye to draw up to the shape of the actual design. I'm then going to, now I've got a background of the monstera leaf, I'm going to place some of the orchids again in front of those leaves. So I'm not piercing through the leaf, I'm using the leaf as a little cup that enhances the beautiful orchid blooms in front of it, and then we can see all the lovely colour of the orchid because it has that beautiful, rich, deep background of the monstera leaf shielding it. So that also creates some extra depth in the arrangement and gives an illusion of a stronger placement, and also makes the orchids appear to be a more vibrant colour because they have the deeper green as a background. I'm just tucking some moss into my arrangement now. I only put the moss on after I've made most of the placements of the flowers. This is for a couple of reasons. I don't want to push the flower stems down through the moss and then drag all the soil down into the arrangement. And also it's for an economy factor, because I only need to use a little bit of moss to cover the pieces of foam that weren't covered with the material. And if I put the moss in first, then I'm just using more moss and dragging all that dirt down into the water source, the floral foam, which will also make the water foul, and therefore the arrangement won't last as long. Sometimes when we have a beautiful Banksia such as these, we can just put one single bloom as well. It has enough strength and dominance to capture the eye because of the beautiful yellow gold tones of it. And then on the other side of the arrangement, I've placed a couple of the Banksia to gain the same effect. I have the beautiful pistachio anthurium, which I want to place now. And the reason that I'm placing the anthuriums the very last in the arrangement is, although they're a very long lasting flower, they're a very easy flower to rip on other stronger leaves, such as the Banksia leaves. And then once you perforate the flower, it will start to brown and the flower won't last or be perfect. So I'm putting these in as my very last placements, and then I'm not dragging them against any of the other leaves or rougher stems that could tear or perforate the face of the anthurium. Again, I'm placing these in twos as a little statement and bringing some down quite low on this one side of the arrangement to bring the colour and the texture right down to the base of the arrangement. So we can see that all the way around the arrangement we've got different areas, different heights, all the materials are vertical, they're all parallel, and all these different lines would never meet from the top or the base of the arrangement. So suitable for a corporate occasion or somewhere where there's not a lot of depth, but you want a nice strong design.